This is Business Connections TV, and it's great to have your company with us on this, our inaugural flight. So it may well be a little bit bumpy at times. We do hope you can enjoy yourselves. My name's Steve Hyland. It's great to have your company with us today, and we do hope you're actually going to enjoy what you're going to see. Now, we've made an absolute conscious decision about this to make it something special for you. We're looking for business information that's going to help you maybe to create your business, to grow your business, or maybe you're in that lucky position where you're thinking about starting your own business. What are the tips? What are the techniques that you need to actually go through? Who should you be talking to? And probably more importantly, who should you be listening to? And what organisations are out there to give you the advice that you need to get your business up and running? Well, really, we've got some fantastic experts with us on our first programme. Let me introduce them to you first of all. Paul Bridgeland, who describes himself as a word-of-mouth specialist, but more importantly, is very heavily involved with the Best Of, which is a brand, a franchise here in the UK, and you have the Best of Guildford, don't you?
That's right, Steve, yeah.
So Paul is looking after that. He's going to be looking at the whole world of franchising, maybe where you should go. Also, some of the steps that you need to take when it comes to starting an organisation like that and how you promote it. And when it comes to promoting things and when it comes to talking to people and communicating with them, who do you talk to? Well, hopefully you talk to the world and you use social media. And with us, we've got Nikki Krell, who is our social media expert, who's just had a very unfortunate incident where I was shouting at your microphone and then we both realised where the microphone was, and then she got a fit of the giggle. So that was good fun. But listen, ladies and gentlemen, lovely to have you with us here this evening, and thank you very much for taking the plunge with us tonight. Let me kick off, first of all, if I may, with you, Paul. I mean, just describe a little bit about your business and a little bit of your background as well.
Well, where do I start? I started as an air steward, actually, Steve. You might be surprised.
Oh, really? Pushing the trolley?
Pushing the trolleys and pushing the dollies. But and that's where I met my wife. But I kind of went on from that. For about 10 years, I ran a sort of events multimedia company. We did big shows and put on commercial corporate shows. And then I bought this franchise in 2008. I've been running it for about 5 years.
Why did you go down the route of doing a franchise?
I think I sold my business, and anyone who's had a business that's been reasonably successful, you've got this feeling that you can start anything up anytime, wherever you want. And if I'm honest with you, I spent a couple of years trying one or two things. I actually bought a dealership, a motorcycle dealership, which was didn't quite work out. I would have been better off just buying a couple of motorbikes. But I kind of reached a stage where I was looking for something that was current, and the Best Of is very much about the internet, related to social media, networking. That whole scene I felt was current and right for me, really. Well,
just looking at your website that you've got here, the Best of Guildford, and as we said, it is part of a larger franchise as well, for that matter, isn't it? If we can just have a quick gander at your website, the Best of Guildford. Do you design the actual website yourself, or is that supplied to you?
Well, the way it works is that I guess the website is the core of what we're provided with by our franchisor. So all of that's done for us. We find local businesses who want to be featured on the site, but actually the site is becoming less and less an important part of what we offer, because the main part of what we offer is something that we're probably going to touch on this evening, which is the networking. We run the exhibitions. That's become almost more important, but the site is provided for us by our franchise provider.
I did actually, when I saw you at one of your networking events, you did actually say to me that's what was so important about the whole thing, was the fact that to a certain extent the website isn't the most important part of the business anymore, and it is all about this word of mouth.
I think everything's, I don't know whether we're going around in full circle, but people want to deal with people, and Nikki would agree with that, because that's part of the social media offering. We've kind of gone round in a bit of a circle. It all became a little bit impersonal with the internet to start with, and now we're going back to the fact that people want to know who they're dealing with. They want to know about the people that they're dealing with, and that's where the networking and the other areas that we're involved in come into play.
Nikki, we've talked over you now for way too long, and we should actually be talking to you about it. But Nikki, you are a social networking expert. In fact, an author, no less. You've actually got your book out. I'm going to hold this in front of her face, but there it is. How to Twitter for Business Success. I mean, that is quite a step to take, isn't it, for somebody? Tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, my background is I come from a marketing background, and I've done a bit of direct selling, and I started out as a coach. So I was coaching, and somebody said, you have to be on Twitter. You need to be on Twitter. I went on Twitter, confused me, and I ran away within 2 days.
Excellent. But a lot of people do, don't they?
They do. I just didn't understand. There was lots of jargon, and it seemed disjointed. There seemed to be all these acronyms and all these links, and I didn't understand what was going on. And it was only in December that year I was actually quite quiet, and I went on to a webinar about social media, and I did a course, and I concentrated on it. Within 2 weeks, I had somebody ringing me up to talk to me about coaching, and doors kept on opening almost right from the start. So things started happening. I started meeting people, connecting with people, getting on the radio and various other things predominantly through Twitter to start off with. And I then led me to actually start teaching people how to use it.
Getting your own back now, aren't you? I know. We made this so long, she's getting her own back. I tell you what is interesting about it, and I think a lot of people sometimes feel about this, is that they'll start a social networking as such. They end up with loads of followers, a bit like the Facebook scenario where you have thousands of people following you, but it actually has no benefit whatsoever to your business because it's just numbers. Nobody's coming to you and going, actually, I've read about your particular site, your business, whatever you do, and they're not saying, I'd like to buy whatever you're selling. Or is it because people are using it wrong, do you think?
I think when you do something like social media, it can take up a lot of time. And you need to be focused on what you want to get out of for your business. Because ultimately, if you're going to be spending time on Twitter or Facebook or whatever platform you want to use, if you consider it marketing and you concentrate and you're focused about what you do, you'll get results. Whereas lots of people will spend the day dabbling around, going down rabbit warrens, seeing what this person does and that person does, and spend a lot of time thinking that they're doing social media, but they're actually just reading a lot of stuff and wasting time. If you focus, you can actually, and for Twitter, I always recommend that you commit at least 15 minutes a day, but that's probably all you need to do with Twitter. Is if you spend just 15 minutes a day, it can be very, very effective.
Is the big thing about Twitter and social networking, is it about having a conversation? Is it about opening a dialogue with somebody?
I think we've gone beyond the business to business or business to consumer. It's people to people marketing we're talking about. And it's remembering humans haven't changed. And that's why with the networking, I'm sure we're going to be talking about it. It's people do business with people then know, like and trust. And and that still applies. People haven't changed. The technology has changed, but the human interactions are the same. And nobody likes to be sold to.
I mean, can you? I suppose the question is everybody's going to be asking is, can you make money out of it? I mean, is it just something that everybody feels that they have to do? Is it something that you can actually go out there and say, look, there's the bottom line. I can actually make X amount out of it. I mean, Paul, have you from your social networking, have you seen a benefit to your business? Because you're doing the word of mouth bit, but are you doing the electronic word of mouth?
I think you can, in answer to your question, you can make money out of anything. And there are people making a lot of money out of social media. I'm not saying Nikki's making lots of money out of social media, but she's done very well through social media. And in fact, I've been on one or two of Nikki's courses, which is why one of the things I picked up that Nikki has always said is that it's the people that they want to know. So if you're on Twitter, they don't want a company logo there. They want to see a face. And for some reason, people have this tendency to hide behind that. This is going back
to the old world of selling skills, isn't it? People buying from people, as you said.
Absolutely, yeah. And Nikki stole my line, which is a well-known corny line, which is know, like and trust. So it's a networking line. They want to deal with people. They want to get to know the people. Then they like them. They trust them. They do business with them. But I've gone totally away from your original question. Is do I think people are making money out of it? Interesting point, which might upset or offend Nikki to a certain extent, is we've been looking at ramping up our Facebook activities, and I looked around at a few clients and customers that I know. I've got an apprentice working with me. I asked him to have a look. He came up with one very small company and said, blimey, you know, they've got 1,500 likes. And I just thought, how on earth have they, because they don't do a hell of a lot. We've since discovered that they've actually bought a number of likes. Now, Nikki, you're shaking your head, but Facebook doesn't like that. But from a business point of view, I don't know that much about social media. I was impressed. So it has achieved a purpose because I was impressed that company had so many likes.
There's something called social proof in terms of how other people recommending it. But the thing is, you can have 15,000 people who've liked a page if you're not getting any business from them. And if it's somebody sitting in India or, you know, sort of like anywhere else who's just been paid to click it, are they ever going to be your customers?
No, I appreciate that. But what I'm saying is I was impressed, though. I thought they must be doing something right for all the wrong reasons.
I think the problem is that people are making too much of how many likes or how many followers you have. And you do need a critical mass, you know, because there's no point in posting on Facebook if nobody's liked the page and nobody sees it, or, you know, sort of tweeting and you don't have any followers. But it's about influence and how you're influencing other people. And if you just concentrate on the bottom line of like how many followers, you can buy them, you know, sort of like, and it means absolutely nothing if you're not engaged with them. But ultimately, you need them to be doing business with you.
So really what we've got to do then, I would imagine, with Facebook, Twitter and any other social media sites, is you've got to step back for a moment, haven't you, and actually say to yourself, what is going to be of interest? It's one of the things, I remember coming and talking at one of your networking events, and we were talking about websites and website design. And the number of websites that are out there at the moment that are, we've been established since 1953, we've got 400 employees, and we make widgets. Well, you know, that's the third thing down. The thing I'm searching for is, do you make widgets? Not how long you've been going. I mean, yes, you've got to establish the business, but really there's so much that is written out there that is completely superfluous to the conversation. It's of no use at all. And if you are thinking like that for your website, surely you've got to be thinking like that for each and every one of your tweets or your Facebook entries.
I think you always have to be customer focused. And when you tweet, you need to move out of the I'm doing this or that, to the you, using the you, because as soon as you start using the you, you're thinking of your customers, you're thinking what reaction you want to get from each one. So you need to, it's not just about what you're up to, because the number of people who have their whole lives of every single meal they've eaten, you know, is on Instagram or tweeted about. And that's all about them. But if you can turn it around and make it all about your customers and
it's a bit like networking. I think the word is engage. You know, you if you engage with someone, it's a two-way communication. The tendency in business, the traditional sales approach is to shout at people. You're not really interested in them. You just want them to buy something.
You just want the sale, don't you? You want to make the money.
Yeah. But that's all come round. And the sort of the social media thing is to take an interest in other people, and then they'll take interest in you, which I think is very
I suppose
helpful.
it begs the question then, doesn't it? Are we expecting too much from social media? Or are we expecting the wrong thing from social media? And is it really not actually going to fulfill us when we're, you know, providing a business service or something like that?
I think social media has changed the way people will use the internet. I think a company like Dell, I was listening to a talk, I think it was about a year ago, and he said within the last few years they've seen a dramatic difference in how when people come to their site, because it used to be people come to the site, go through the site, look at different models, find out various things, whereas people now come onto the site, type in the exact model they want. And the reason they do that is because they've already made that buying decision outside the company website. So they're using it to buy the product, but they've actually gone onto forums, they've asked a friend, because what we normally would naturally ask people, you know, sort of, and I've got so much good advice by putting questions out there and people recommending, say, a piece of software or this is a good person to... People do that naturally, and they're using social media to do it. So if you choose to ignore social media, people are still going to be talking.
Yeah, but is it no more than just, say, a bulletin board on steroids then? A big bulletin board on steroids, because you get the same kind of conversations taking place on bulletin boards. I'm not putting it down, because we've been amazed. We as a new venture, we started 2.5-3 weeks ago putting together, looking for people who would like to follow us. And thank you very much if you have. And we've been amazed but the thing that struck me the most, you hit a critical mass and then it just seems to just grow and grow and grow. Now, we don't know whether we really are of any interest to those followers. We are trying to have a conversation with them, but it's very difficult, particularly. How many followers have you got on your Twitter account, dare I ask?
It's over 7,000.
7,000. How do you have a specific conversation? I mean, I think it's difficult enough with our 500, but how do you go about having a specific conversation?
They're all from a little town in South Africa, aren't they?
They're not actually.
It's not a town, though. I mean, 7,000 is a fair-sized town, isn't it?
Yeah. No, well, obviously the way I deal with it is like it allows people to access me immediately. And I built up a relationship with somebody who actually wrote my forward, and I've contributed to a book in her book that she's going out, Dee Blake. We built up a relationship. We met at a networking meeting briefly, had a cup of coffee, and probably that would have been it. I'm not a great emailer. So I wouldn't necessarily have put her on my emailing list or anything. But through Twitter, I read her book and sort of like started talking to her on Twitter. We built up a relationship. And as a result of it, it's been a very profitable relationship for both of us. And we built up a genuine friendship. And that's come through building up relationships. And it's, I suppose I met her in 2009, I think. So it's a long time ago, sort of like where we kept in touch. I've had people that I worked with in the past when I was doing something completely different who are aware of what I'm doing because they connected with me on Facebook. And I haven't had to say, sort of like, I'm a social media coach and trainer, please use me. They've just been aware because I've been putting some stuff up there, and I've been approached, years after I've had any contact with somebody because they've been following me, what I've been doing on Facebook.
Now, you kind of led onto it just there. Your social media for business. You are a media coach, and you've got a big event coming up very shortly. Unfortunately, we can't quite see that at the moment. We have a small problem with getting the laptop on the screen. But tell us a little bit about this. So when's it going to be taking place? Where's it going to be taking place? And who's it going to be targeting? Who's it going to be aimed at?
Spilling the Beans on social media, and it's aimed at small businesses. It's going to be on the 1st of November at Horsley Park, which East Horsley, Surrey. Mm-hmm. And it's really I'm tired of very theoretical stuff, so I wanted real practical, useful information. So it's starting off with the best-selling marketing person talking about getting your marketing right for social media, because the number of people who come to me because they want a Facebook page or they want to learn how to use Facebook, you ask them basic questions like, who's your customer? And they go, everyone. You go, well,
no, it isn't.
No. And they go, I'm marketing to everyone. And you sort of like ask those type of questions, or you ask them to say in one sentence what their business is about. And they can't answer that.
I tell you what we find very interesting. We do our media training courses here where we have clients come in, and we actually ask them to do a minute about themselves and also a minute about their business. Now, the minute about themselves is fascinating. It's the subject they know the most about. They've got all the information. They've lived their life. And some people find that the most difficult thing in the whole world. And we actually do believe that people should actually have a minute in their head all the time. It's all about, one about them, and a minute as well, all about, everything else.
Well, look, the number of times you go to networking meetings, somebody stands up, spends a minute talking about their business, and then they sit down and you think, I have no idea what on earth you do.
But I think we're not talking about networking now, but the golden rule in any 60 seconds, as we call it in networking, is to be specific. End of. I mean, you might sell tires to every person who owns a car, but for that particular week, you're selling tires to people who own white cars or people who own big cars, or you must be specific, because unless you're specific, people need to put you into a little shoebox so that they can remember you when you need to be remembered.
Well, we're going to talk a little bit about networking later on, but I think the thing about networking that I always feel is that people really get it so wrong. And I think over a period of weeks as well, we are going to be talking about networking, how you should network effectively. But the biggest problem I see is that, the two biggest problems are A, that when you go to one of these events, everybody that is there is selling, nobody is buying.
Right.
And I think a lot of us have the expectations that at least we might get a customer out of the event. But also the fact is that once you find somebody comfortable to talk to, you start to create a relationship with them. And of course, that's not what it's all about. You know, promote who you are. Find out what they do as well.
You're going to the wrong events.
I'm going to the wrong event.
Yes.
So why are your events different? Because I know
Totally
that's where you
different.
see your events growing.
Well, I would say it should never be about selling to the room. I think selling to people at network is like throwing up all over them. It's a horrible sort of coarse, old-fashioned way of going about business to pitch yourself at people. So I always say to people at my groups that it's not, please don't sell to the room. What you're doing is you're going along to the event to ask for referrals. So it's like a bit of a tango dance or whatever. You're going in there, you're telling people what you do, but your closing lines are always, so if anyone knows anyone who might be interested in this, that would be great. You're not saying to everyone, as I've heard people saying, I know one or two of you will be interested, I'd like to speak to you afterwards. That's all wrong. So you must always be going from the angle.
Like all the mistakes I'm making. I mean,
Steve, really, I'm shocked. And the other thing is, the other point that you made is it's the networking is absolutely about relationships, which is why for networking to work, I believe that it's got to be a regular thing. Going along to one meeting here, there or everywhere, dipping your toe in the water is not going to achieve a lot. You might meet the odd useful guy and you might get in touch with him or her afterwards, but the meaningful results from networking, a return on your investment, if you like, is to go there regularly to a group, be a member of a group, and go there not necessarily week after week. Our groups are every two weeks, but to do it regularly, people really start to get to know you, and they start referring you to other people that they know. It does work.
Do you agree with what you said there? I mean, is that how you see networking events?
Well, basically, yes. And I think a lot of what is true for networking is true for social networking or social media.
Yeah. Yes.
Because if you say tweet at a certain time, you get together a group of people who will always be there, and you form a community. And where people like you, they will promote your stuff, even if it's not related to what they're doing. So they'll share your content. So it's not necessarily the people that you're tweeting with or that are forming relationships that actually are going to bring in the business. And there was an example, a friend of mine used to talk about football. Mm-hmm. He had a bit of banter. I have no idea which football team he supported.
Or cared, for that matter.
But they used to just have a bit of football banter. Didn't think anything of it until he got contacted by the HR manager it was a major retailer, and the person worked for a retailing company, and he'd recommended him. So they'd never ever talked business, but because he liked him, he'd gone onto his website, he'd looked at some of his videos that he'd done, and therefore recommended him when they were looking for sales training. He was a sales trainer.
So it's interesting you say that about going onto people's websites. So off the different social media websites, I mean, we've got Facebook, which, yes, you can be my friend. In fact, everybody can be my friend. So we've got that. We've got Twitter, which is sort of going out and coming back, and then you've got to respond to them coming back before you allow them on. And then you've got the likes of LinkedIn, haven't you?
No, you don't have to respond to them.
Well, no, you don't have to. But that's the problem. I mean, you've got to be polite. If someone takes their time out, if they do, they respond back to you. When people go to follow you, you respond back to them, don't you? Do you?
I'm very bad on LinkedIn. I hold my hands up.
But going on to LinkedIn, has LinkedIn changed the way things are going for itself? Has it just become a more sophisticated Facebook page now? At one stage, it seemed to be purely
Facebook for grown-ups, isn't it? It's a sort of it's a more serious thing, but lots of people use it, and it's very effective. And
I get a lot of business in through LinkedIn.
And I've been on one of Nikki's LinkedIn courses as well. So
what's a plug for my courses?
Yeah.
You just got way too much time on your hands. Do you know that?
Sure, I have. I mean, two words. I think there is a big affinity between networking and social media. And you mentioned the two things that you didn't like about networking, but as I said, I totally agree with you. I mean, two things that I think people lack, or a lot of people often lack when they do go networking, is commitment and persistence. Commitment to be there regularly, and perhaps the same applies to social media. If you just do a flurry of tweets 1 week and then disappear for about 3 weeks, then you kind of, there's no, what sort of person are people sort of, do they really want to hook up with someone who's here today, gone tomorrow, and then back again the following week? And also the persistence is kind of keeping on at it. You know, if you sort of do Facebook and likewise networking, if you're there a year later, then that's how you really do start building up relationships. Through networking, I personally, or through my business, have created some amazing long-term and lucrative relationships with people that I would never have met otherwise. I haven't done so much on social media, but I mean, obviously I've got a lot of contacts, and you do meet people, and you know, business happens just by swapping posts.
I mean, you kind of touched on it a little bit there. We were talking about the different methods, the methodology, and of course we also said at the very beginning about the different techniques that you use to promote your business. And I mean, it's quite interesting what your particular thoughts are on the likes of Google, because Google, for instance, what we're doing here tonight, that repetition, that regular appearance, for instance, with YouTube, what YouTube are looking for is quality content. They want it on a regular basis, but yet you are in the hands of somebody else, aren't you?
You are, yes.
You know, they can change rules at the drop of a hat. And we all think as well that by doing social media, by doing video blogs, or by using video, or by using it to promote, that is the right way to go forward to promote our business. But yet Google, somebody completely that we have no control over, can change rules, can't they?
I think that is an issue. You know, Google has become, you know, a very large organisation, far-reaching, and they control many aspects of the internet. So I think people realise now that it's very difficult trying to model your business around Google, because it's an ever-changing thing. They obviously have sort of meetings every 3 months and decide to change the way that their search algorithm works. And all of a sudden we're all off on another track. So, you know, this week we were sort of, you know, wearing suits, and next week we're wearing jeans because Google's changed the rules. So I think it's very different. It's become unpredictable, and Google, as I'm sure Google will admit, they have made a lot of changes on a regular basis over the past sort of year or two, and for larger commercial organisations that put a lot of investment and time into gearing their internet strategy to suit Google, it can be a little bit frustrating at times, because you know, they put a lot of effort into one particular strategy that concurs completely with what Google requires, and then all of a sudden they find that that's changed and they've got to change how they do things.
Has that meant that you, as a franchise, as a business yourself, have you moved away then from using Google?
No. I mean, it's
You've got to.
It's very important. It's kind of, it's like bread now, or whether you own a car or whatever. It's like air itself. So it's something that we all need to use and kind of fit in with. But if I'm honest and blunt, there's no doubt that it has had an effect on our business. You know, it changes the way in which the people who run our site have to work in order to make our site Google compatible, because ultimately with our website, we're like every other site, we're interested in one thing and one thing only, and that's visibility. And Google is where everyone looks if they want to buy a product or a service on the internet. We all use it all the time.
And one of the sales things about your particular business was the fact that it would raise your ranking in a search engine if you became part of
that's always
a best of.
That's always been a major part of what we do. It's less of what we do now, because I don't know about other franchises, but certainly in my area I've realised that it's becoming very difficult to follow Google in whichever direction it goes in, which is why our particular business has evolved a little bit, and we put far more emphasis onto the networking, the word of mouth. We run a big exhibition in Guildford every year now. These are all things that we never did about 5 years ago. We were pretty much solely internet. So Google's still important, don't get me wrong, and the website is the core of what we do. But we have evolved our business to embrace other means of promoting businesses.
What do you think? I mean, are you an advocate? Are you a fan of Google as such? Or
I was going to say, I've got somebody from Google speaking about Google Plus at my summit.
Right.
So I think there's a lot of merit in learning about it, but I suppose, less interested in what Google does. But in terms of my business, I suppose there's a triangle where you've got content, content, SEO, which is search engine optimization, and social media, and that it's called inbound marketing. And I'm more concerned about what I can do to attract the right people to me. It's not the numbers, you know, sort of you can get.
It's the quality.
It's the quality. It's having the right people. It's like somebody picking up the phone and the first time you speak to them and they say, I've been following you on Twitter for a while, or I love your blog, or, you know, sort of like I've been reading, you know, this content and that content. I know somebody who bought my book, one of my first people to buy the book, was saying, oh, I've been reading your blog, absolutely love your blog, I've ordered my book, and sort of I waited, you know, she told me when it arrived and all the deeds about it.
That's a bit of a worry, actually, isn't it? That's a little bit stalking.
You get used to it. I think you get used to things being in the public eye, but it's nice because if you've written a book, if you've taken the time to read a book, it's lovely when people take the time out to contact you and say, I'm really enjoying your book. And that's like music to your ears, to actually speak to real people who read it, rather than your mum's best friend or, you know, sort of your
well, they're going to say it's great. Anyway, Paul, does that mean that you're going to be going to this training course as well with Nikki?
He's done it.
And you'll be meeting the nice people from Google Plus.
I've been to many of Nikki's training courses, and I would love to meet the lovely people at Google Plus. Maybe put a few spies in there.
Fantastic. All right, so that's where we are at the moment. Let's just go back to creating and developing the business. So, Nikki, you are developing the fact that you are a social networking instructor. That's what you do. Do you do anything else?
Well, my business is around helping business owners how to use social media to help them grow their business. Rather than, there's no point in being an expert in Facebook or Twitter. It's got to actually work for your business. And it's knowing what your return on investment is. For small businesses, social media is the first ability to level the playing field. You don't need a big budget at all to actually get a lot of recognition, a lot of brand awareness. You can do it with a little bit of savvy, persistence, consistency, you know, showing a bit of your personality, and things like, you know, sort of picking up, dare I say, I know we're in a lovely studio here, but most people carry a phone which has got, you can record video, you could do a podcast from your phone. You've got all these tools which are incredibly accessible, which are incredibly accessible and within most people's budgets. So if you've got, and in fact they've shown that for small businesses, Twitter is far more effective because people are relating and connecting with those people and supporting local people.
That's interesting you say that. There is actually a complete training course by two gentlemen in Los Angeles, I think they are. It's called Video Genesis. And most of their course is actually filmed using the iPhone 5. I mean, it's beautifully produced, and you know, and all credit to them as well. But once again, they are promoting the fact that video is the future. I mean, do you see it as the future, or do you think that the written word has still got the power?
Well, I think video, well, I was going to say video is not the future, it's a present. People are using video. What do you do if you need to do almost anything? You go onto YouTube to look it up. People are watching, I think it's something like 6 billion views a day. That's a lot.
It's a lot of video.
It's a lot of video.
Video it's changed though, hasn't it? It's changed because 2 years ago, when you would record a video, what would happen is people would say, "Oh yes, you've got to do video. It doesn't matter what it looks like, doesn't matter what it sounds like. You've just got to do it. You've just got to be there. Get it up on YouTube." And the content now is becoming more and more important.
Well, the content, I think, should have always been important. I think there's sort of like the skills we've gone from, you know, sort of, and I've seen some really horrendous videos where somebody's got like loads of stuff happening in the background, and you spend most of the video looking at what's on the background, and you think, you know, it's distracting. So there's no excuse really to just do simple things like clearing the background, making sure your sound's fine. that the lighting, that you're not got a window behind you, and very, very simple things like that. So it is accessible, but it is that because so many people are doing it, you need to stand out from everyone
And there are
else.
people actually making money from it as well, aren't there? There are people that are able to promote the whole concept of how to sell better and to do better things with video.
Well, the thing is, with video, it's the next best thing to being face-to-face with somebody, because people feel as though they get to know you. And when you read, you can often hear somebody's voice, but when you can see somebody and you can hear them, you get a feeling for, would I want to do a business with that person? Your personality comes through.
I suppose the written word and also just even speech on its own down the telephone, you're losing 90% of the person, aren't you? Because we read people. What about you, Paul? Because you said to me just before we started the programme that you're now moving into the realms of video. You're using a DSLR camera, but you're actually, is it another business or is it just a hobby that you're doing?
It's just a hobby. I would always, and I'm not just saying it because you're here, but I would always advocate the use of a proper video. If you want to do a video, I mean, we have... videos are not important, they're vital. And we would always use a proper company to, create a properly edited video. We always have them done for our show. We have them done for the site every so often. My hobby is something I've been kind of sucked into. By
your
default,
son, isn't it? Yeah.
My son plays rugby, and I started filming the odd match because the coach plays for Harlequins and he can't always be there all the time. That's now become we would like, but we must have. And now the referees union have got onto it, and I now have to wire up the referee, so it's all become far too big, and this is all with a little camera that looks like a radar detector. So
well, I mean, just go to show you the power of it in the end.
Yeah,
isn't it?
absolutely,
That's what it's all about. All right, let's get back to the crux of the matter then. As we came in here, we haven't finished talking to you about franchise and why you went down that way and what you should learn from it. But let's talk a little bit very quickly about the book. Yeah. And also maybe, and this is like the how-to videos.
Yeah.
What are the 5 big mistakes, or however number there are, big mistakes that people do when it comes to using social media? And what are the 5 things that they should be doing? There's a lot of things to be thinking about.
I don't know if I could do it. Yeah.
No prep. Where you go?
I was going to say one of the big mistakes that people do is that they dash into using social media because everybody says you must. And they do it without being strategic about it, thinking about what do I want to get out of it for my business. And it's like, it's being focused on, is it to drive awareness, is it to drive sales, is it to build loyalty? Because the way you would do each of those ones would be slightly different. And for most small businesses, the awareness, because it doesn't matter how absolutely fabulous you are, if nobody knows about you, they are not going to buy from you. As first point of marketing, you need awareness.
There is that old story, isn't there, about being at a party in a dark room, winking at the most attractive girl. If she can't see you, she'll never know you're there.
Yeah, exactly.
So
for most small businesses, that's exactly, they need to build up awareness, and then it takes the pressure off having to sell. So if you think, okay, I just want more people to be aware, but lots of people dash into it because everybody says, oh, you must be on, Facebook page. The number of times I get a phone call, can you help me set up a Facebook page? Which I don't. I train people how to do it and help them with the strategy. But they'll say, I want a Facebook page. And when you ask them about their business, what their business is about, Facebook's not the place they should be. It's not to say they shouldn't be on Facebook eventually, but and it's a big tip for people using social media is choose one thing, learn how to use it properly. You can take all those skills onto the next platform, but quite often people say, "Oh, you need a Facebook page, you need a Twitter account, you need a Google Plus, YouTube video, etc." And you get overwhelmed. And when you get overwhelmed, you don't do anything.
Well, a lot of people don't realise that there are so many out there, do they? And you see it on everybody. You see it on our website. In fact, you have this whole list of social networking icons that are sitting there.
Like a row of medals, isn't it?
Oh, like a row. Look at all the medals I've got.
Yeah.
But in scale of importance, then, which one would you rank? This is really sticking your neck out now. Which one would you rank as the most important of the networking or the social networking?
I think, well, I mean, it really depends on your business. And it's knowing where your customers are. There's no point in saying one thing is different.
Oh, how the Twitter for business success, yes.
I know, but it's knowing where your customers are. I mean, I'm a big fan of Twitter, and it was, I suppose, my first love, because it was really getting to grips with Twitter that opened up everything for me. Twitter may sound complicated, and I know there's a big fear factor with Twitter, but it's probably the simplest to come to grips with. You've got less than 140 characters. That's like a sentence. It's not that difficult.
You should
to
be
come
able
up
to
with
think up a sentence that's worth listening
Most
to,
people,
shouldn't you?
if you've got an idea of what type of things you can tweet about, a sentence doesn't take that long to do.
No.
It doesn't take that long to read. And it's just learning how to use the tools. Twitter for PR, I think, for sort of and for marketing, I'd say it's the number one thing for me. For YouTube, for search, seems to be the most effective way. Obviously, I'd recommend for most people to have a blog, but it depends very much on your business and where your customers are, because there's no point in having a Facebook page if your customers aren't, sort of, that's not where they're hanging out. If they're on LinkedIn predominantly, and that's where they're having the conversations.
And what about the new kids on the block? Things like Google Plus.
Well, Google Plus is really interesting because it's almost snuck in, because when it started, it was like being in an empty room and people talking about the technology, or it's like the architecture. People were talking about the architecture about it. But it has become really interesting, and I've noticed that lots of people responding, because if I've written a blog post, I tend to put it out in a number of places, and I let people react to me in whichever place they want to. And I'm getting more and more response on Google. Google
And it's interesting with Google as well, you've got the Hangouts.
The Hangouts are really interesting. I did some interviews via Google Hangout, which I recorded, went straight onto YouTube. How easy is that to do? It's like straight away. You can have a group of people. There's so much capacity. If you think about, here's a tool, and it's not the tool that's interesting. It's like, how can I make this work for my business? And that's ultimately what you should be thinking, rather than going, oh, this exciting new thing. Google's been interesting.
The trouble is, isn't it, that a lot of the technology gets picked up by the geeks, doesn't it? That's the thing, and it tends to be, if you look on the web, a lot of the people that are doing programs like this are very technology based, aren't they? They tend to be.
I'm a bit of a technophobe.
You're a technophobe. Me too, actually. I wish I knew nothing about it.
I'm sort of like, I've learned a hell of a lot about technology, since I've started, and I probably can talk geek speak, if I need to now, just because I've read so much. I do spend a lot of time reading content about it. But if you think about, it's just people, and it's getting to know people, and that's simple. It's having conversations with people. It's building up relationships with people. It's like thinking. I mean, you got a chance to get immediate feedback when you put something out. You get a direct response. When things work, do more of that. If things don't work, do less of that. So it's a very simple, simple process.
Paul, from your point of view, would you agree with what Nikki's just said there, or do you have a different view on the use of social networking? And what are the big mistakes, do you think?
Well, Nikki's the expert on social media. I wouldn't dare say anything, no. But it's. I think I always the thing we get back from our customers is we suggest that they all do it, and I appreciate they shouldn't just jump into it without working out a strategy. But equally, there's quite a lot of resistance from more traditional companies. Well, we don't like it, we don't want to do it, and I always use this simplistic thing. If you imagine two fields, there's you all on your own, and there's another field with all your customers, probably your competitors as well.
Yep.
And that's the social media one. So I think people have got to get involved in it. But obviously, I'm not going to repeat what Nikki said. It's all true.
I think it's a case of it's better to get started now than wait 6 months or years down the line, because however you start and how tentatively you start, even if it's like, this is my first ever tweet. I mean, some of the things that I put out originally were, sort of like, were inane. It's like.
But this is the criticism, isn't it, that you have at Facebook now? I'm having a coffee. I'm now having a bath. I'm now going to bed.
Yes.
But you know what? Again, it's that thing. People go on about that, but if people do that, they're not going to have many followers. So it's kind of, I'm of the mentality that if you don't like something on telly, then change the channel. And there's an awful lot of people knocking. That's all I hear is, I don't want to read about someone what toothpaste they used this morning. But you don't have to read all of that. And some people, one guy who recently signed up, he said, "Oh God, you've got almost 4,000 followers. How do you read all those tweets?" Well, you don't read them. You just read the ones that you want to. So there's a bit of education to go on. But I think people, by and large, in business now are accepting the fact that social media is quite an important part of their marketing strategy, and they really have to get involved. And if they don't personally want to do it, although I know Nikki says it's a personal thing, they need to appoint someone within their organisation to take personal ownership of it.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't matter who it is. It's a face.
It's a person.
A person, and you can be personable.
I mean, I have a new person who's just joined me, and I want him to do a couple of tweets a day. I still tweet, but I've said, look, I want you just to put a couple of general information.
I need to follow you, don't I? I don't think I have.
I think I'm following you, Steve.
You're following us.
And I tell you what, I get terribly upset if people don't follow me back.
You take them outside.
You get. But I've said to him, please don't sort of put personal things, because it's me ultimately. I'll do that side of it. So I will tell them what toothpaste I had this morning, but he can do the bits about what's going on in Guildford, whether there's a traffic jam or useful information that people might want to know.
I mean, it is fascinating. The whole area is absolutely fascinating. Let's go through the events that are coming up, and also about the book. You were going to say something else, weren't you?
I was going to say that social media is, and something that you said, it's an integrated part of your business. So it's part of marketing, it's part of your sales in terms of lead generation, it's part of customer service. Just a warning, if your customer service was rubbish or is rubbish, going on social media is not going to suddenly solve it. It's going to escalate the problem.
It will let you know about it.
Yeah, it will escalate the problem.
Yeah.
You need to have your business, your nuts and bolts in a row before you do that. But there also another warning is, and your website is really your home base. Don't build on somebody else's rented property. Facebook is rented property. Twitter is rented property. There's no point in building up an empire on one particular platform. You need to have a strategy for your business and drive people to your home. Everything else is rented. They will change things. And anybody who's been on Facebook 5 minutes knows how often they change things.
And a lesson well learned, actually. Let's talk about the book.
Okay.
If we want to get hold of the book, and I'm sorry once again, we wanted to show you some of the different websites, both for the Best of Guildford and also Nikki's as well, for that matter. Unfortunately, I can see them, but you can't. But we will actually sort that out and put them up onto the screen as well, with the appropriate links as well, so that you can go and find out more information. But back my two guests that are here this evening. Let's just talk very quickly then about the book. Where can I get it? How much is it going to cost me? And I mean, and it is packed, isn't it? It is packed full of information. Just how to get more from retweets, the benefits of retweeting, just how to make your blog posts easy to retweet. I mean, it's the kind of advice that is a secret that nobody tells you.
But it's a lot of how-tos. I assume, the way I've written the book is, I'm assuming that the person who reads it is a business person who's got years and years of experience. So they know about their business, and I don't need to tell them about their business. But it's a lot of the how-tos, the very simple little things that quite often people overlook, that is really useful to know. And quite often I've been surprised, because people who I've thought were quite experienced Twitter people have actually said that how much they've got out of the book. And it wasn't really written with them in mind. It was written in mind for somebody who's predominantly setting up or is on Twitter and doesn't really know how to make it work for their business, because quite often people will spend a lot of time chatting but not actually get business from it.
Well, I'll tell you what, I mean, I can't wait to be playing my way through it. If I wanted to get hold of a copy of it, and this is good, I like this, because there's electronic delivery, and also you can buy it in a nice...
It's online, all good online retailers, so obviously Amazon, it's on there. It's $5.99 for the paperback, and $2.99 for it on Kindle electronically. I was going to say, with the paperback, I've been having people taking pictures all over the world.
I know, and We were going to show you those pictures because you've also got them up on Pinterest as well.
Yes, I have.
Now, we will put all these links actually onto the website, so you'll be able to go there and you'll be able to become part of the conversation that we had here.
I don't have one of you.
Yeah, we're going to have one. Is there one of you as well?
No, that can be
there's one of
arranged.
Sally.
That can be arranged.
Give me the book and I'll take one at Aston on the British. Actually, we're racing this weekend, so I'll be on the grid at Aston. I'll happily hold the book up for you.
So it just goes to show you. So if you want to have your photographs taken maybe remotely with the book in your hand, the book that tells you what you should be doing with social networking, then that's the way to do it. Yeah. We'll put the links below this particular film to show you exactly where you get it. That's an old expression, isn't it? Film. You haven't heard that for a lot. Film on this wind-up gramophone that we've got here. Yeah. And of course we're in black and white too, which is a nice thing. I can't wait for colour to turn up, can you? All right, so that's the book. Yeah, okay. The actual event, the training course that people can go to?
It's not a training course, it's a social media... Well, I mean, I do run training courses, but the Social Media Summit is getting together a whole group of excellent speakers and spending the day networking. There's a number of workshops on the day as well. So it's really taking you through the process of social media, making you think and be inspired about how you can use it for your business. Obviously, a networking opportunity with lots of local business people.
And I was going to say, who are the speakers? Can you remember any of them?
I've got a large number of speakers. I've got Dee Blick, who's a marketing expert. I've got Andrew Grill, who's the CEO of Cred, which is the largest influence platform. And you'll be talking about influence, how influence works, so from likes to leadership. I've got she's a BBC journalist and producer, but she also teaches companies how to deal with media. And she's going to be talking about...
You've done a good job. If she's trained you, fantastic.
She's talking about crisis communication, because even small businesses need to know what happens when something goes wrong.
Yep.
Like what happens if you were at that nursery where there was, sort of like a child being molested at the nursery. Suddenly you've got a crisis which will explode. And it's really being prepared for that. So she's talking about that. I've got a legal expert, Suzanne Dibble, who's going to be talking about the social media and the law. I mentioned the Google guy talking about
and of course,
Google
very prevalent at the moment. I mean, really relevant, that, isn't it, with all the problems that went on a little while back with Twitter. People don't realise what happens when you republish something. You become the publisher, and therefore people can come chasing after you. And it's just a shame. People think that it is something you can say whatever you like. We were talking about this before we started the programme. We can say whatever we like. We're not controlled by any rules. But in fact, we are. So we've got to be, you do have...
Vigilance is the price of freedom.
Indeed, indeed. So, anything else we need to know about it? When is it?
It's on the 1st of November. All the details on the website, which is socialmediasummit.biz.
All right.
Okay, so they can find out about that, yes.
And it's free?
No, it's not free.
How much will it cost?
It's £195. There's a deal for Best of Guildford people, which I'm sure I'll give a discount.
Can you do a deal with us as well? And if you book through the website, then thank you very much indeed.
If you book tonight, Steve.
Pardon?
If you book tonight.
If you book tonight, if you book right now, the next 5 minutes, no pressure then. All right, so that's coming along. So that's fantastic, and look forward to seeing you at that. I think the book's brilliant. Once again, the links are going to be on the website as well if you want to pick up your copy of the book, both either electronic or you can do it in softback. Paul, we're running out of time, which is just amazing. We never asked that. But very quickly, franchising. I mean, you went down the franchising route.
Yeah.
I mean, the questions are simple. How do you raise... Which franchise do you go for? How do you raise the money for it? And does it work?
Well, it depends. Well, in answer to your questions, whether it works or not depends which franchise you go for. But that's a difficult question to answer. I mean, I've never been a supporter of franchises in my earlier business life because, if you can run a franchise, you can run your own business. But there's a lot of benefits to franchises right now. Obviously, a lot of people have been made redundant or they're reaching retirement. They have a little bit of money that they've taken from their previous job and they're wondering what to do. And they're probably unemployable because there aren't that many jobs around in the corporate world. So the benefits of a franchise is you're effectively starting your own business or creating a job for yourself, is another way of looking at it. But someone's already done the groundwork for you. They've provided you or are providing you with a model that is known and tested and exists, and possibly a brand name as well. In the case of the Best Of, it's an established, I'm not saying it's known nationally, but it's quite a well-known brand name in various towns. So you've got all that provided, and in our case, obviously a website as well. So you just have to follow the instructions that they give you, which sometimes aren't that specific, but you've got a head start basically. So yes, I would recommend franchising. It doesn't really cost a hell of a lot to buy a franchise when you add it all up, and yes, you do pay an amount every month, but by and large I think you get value for money.
And when it comes to the money, is it an expensive route to go down when it comes to franchising? You hear some horrendous stories about the amount of money it can actually cost you. But is it something that is affordable? You don't have to go into the figures, because no. It varies on the different sizes of the patches.
I've got quite sort of firm feelings on that, because the cost of the franchise, you can look at it in two ways. You can look at it as a cost, and you can perhaps begrudge it and spend your life thinking about whether you could do what you're doing without the franchise, or you can accept that it's a cost, it's part of what you signed into, and rather than looking at it as a cost, you just need to have X number of customers to cover that cost, and then anything after that is your own business. So I still feel it's worthwhile. It's not a huge cost in relation to what we turn over every month.
And the thing is as well, that the guy who is behind it all is quite entrepreneurial anyway, isn't he?
Behind my franchise, yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's Nigel Bottrell, who
yes.
I'm sure a lot of people have heard about. So he's got the Best Of. The other one is, of course, the Entrepreneur Circle, isn't it, as well?
That's right, yeah, we don't talk... No, I'm kidding. It's obviously it's separate, but we do work quite well with the Entrepreneur Circle, because particularly on the networking front, because, of course, they're providing like a sort of national business consultancy service that's sort of rolled out, rather than it being an expensive one-to-one process, but that fits in quite well with the type of people that we're dealing with.
If people want to find out more about the Best of Guildford, and also about the Best, or about Nigel Bottrell and what he does, the Best Of as a brand, who should they talk to? Where should they go?
Well, the company that owns it, Nigel's company, is N5. You can type into Google, of course, the Best Of.
This week.
You can do it today. You can do it right now. This is a call to action. Obviously all the information's there, and there are quite a few towns available for the Best Of at the moment. Franchises available, and I would recommend it. But I would say to anyone, and I guess the same applies to any business, you can't go into it half-heartedly. It's not a sort of part-time fiddle around with it in the evening, which I think sometimes people think franchises are. They're sort of pocket money or easy money. You've really got to put heart and soul into it, and you will get the results back out of it.
Fantastic. And if people want to contact you, Nikki, where can they go? Once again, find your website?
I can say they can Google me.
And Nikki, of course, is on the Best of Guildford.
You're on the Best of Guildford, yes.
I am on the Best of Guildford, but it's nikkicreel.com. And I don't know if you want me to spell out Nikki Creel, but I'm sure you'll have
It'll be. Don't worry. It's on the screen, and don't you worry about that. And also, all the links are going to be sitting on this particular page as well. Can we ask you as well, if you are watching this on YouTube, to subscribe to our channel as well? That would be absolutely fantastic. We're looking for a fair number actually on YouTube at the moment, which would be terrific. So if you can help us out, watch the video by all means, but then please do subscribe as well to the channel. First of all, it's going to let you know exactly when we've got guests on once again, and what the programmes are going to be containing. But from my guests that are here this evening, Paul Bridgen from the Best of Guildford, thank you very much indeed for coming along and being on our inaugural programme. You know, quite frankly, don't know how many people are watching this at the moment, but quite frankly, I don't care, because it's been really interesting. It's just been with you as well. And Nikki as well, Nikki Creel, thank you very much indeed for being with us today. It's been absolutely fantastic. From all the team, thank you very much indeed for watching. We look forward to seeing you again next week, Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. Until then, from all the team here at Business Connections Live, have yourself a fantastic night, and we'll see you next week. Bye for now. Bye-bye.